We think about ways of disincentivizing individuals to try and manipulate the electoral process. Mandatory voting system, so everybody who is eligible to vote must vote.
Where the balance of power is somewhere else, not in the parliament, not in the constitution. You won't see free and fair elections.
हमारी इलेक्टोरल एक्सरसाइज जो है वो एक ऐसे लेवल पर पहुंच गई है इन टर्म्स ऑफ एक्सपेंसेस, इन टर्म्स ऑफ दिस इलेक्शन डे की साइंस, that only the very rich and the very privileged get elected. लो टर्नआउट इसलिए नहीं है क्योंकि लोग वोट नहीं डालना चाहते, लो टर्नआउट इसलिए बिकॉज मैनिपुलेट करना इलेक्शन को आसान होता है.
इलेक्शन की जो बहुत ज्यादा रिगिंग होती थी, बहुत बारीक, उसकी बात ये थी कि जीतने वाला जो है वो ये कहेगा कि मैं सही जीता हूं. It has to be so sly, so secretive कि मैं सही जीता हूं. अब जीतने वाला नहीं कहता ये. इलेक्शन कौन करवाता है? इलेक्शन हमारी एक colonial bureaucracy कराती है. Part of it is not reforming the election commission as a coordinating agency. Part of it is, unless you reform or have a conversation on reforming the bureaucracy, which actually not only supervises the election but supervises those territories where those elections take place.
Welcome everyone, Ji. My name is Osama Khan. I'm an assistant professor of economics at LUMS, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. Let me introduce the esteemed panel of discussants that we have. So to my immediate right, we have Dr. Rasool Baksh Rais, who's been a professor of political science at LUMS for about over 20 years now. He's written several books, including Imagining Pakistan, Modernism, State and Politics of Islamic Revival, as well as Islam, Ethnicity and Power Politics, Constructing Pakistan's National Identity. To his immediate right is Mrs. Arifa Noor, who's a journalist with Dawn. If you read Dawn, I'm sure you must have read some of her opinion pieces. And to her immediate right is Mr. Saroop Ijaz, who's a lawyer by training and also a human rights activist. He's senior counsel for Human Rights Watch in the Asia region, and he actively writes for local and international publications, including Dawn, The Guardian, and Open Democracy. So to all of my panelists, thank you once again for joining me here today. So for the next 1 hour or so, we'll be talking about election reform, but particularly in the aftermath of the most recent general elections in 2024. I think it is sort of undeniable that the elections were nowhere close to being free and transparent. Of course, 2024 is no exception. Perhaps all previous elections that have been conducted have been marred with incidents of pre-poll rigging, post-poll rigging, and in general manipulation of elections. And so I guess the question that we arrive at now is, where do we go from here? Is it all possible to have reforms in the electoral process at all? Or do we have to sort of maybe start fresh? So just to sort of before we get into it, just a quick introduction on the format. So we'll be talking for about 35-40 minutes. And then we'd like to keep this as interactive as possible. So we'd love to get questions from the audience, and we can leave that for the last 20 minutes or so. So just to sort of set things up a bit, one question that we sort of immediately start with is, how does the process of polling and election result notification continue to be subject to what I call strategic manipulation by both state and non-state actors, right? So clearly there is we've seen, all of you I'm sure have seen videos of people walking into polling stations and doing all sorts of things. So how is it that in today's age with so much, where information is so readily transmissible through social media, how is it that this continues to happen? And secondly, are there any legislative or administrative reforms that we could think about that might help the situation in the sense of modifying the electoral process in a way that approximates something closer to sort of transparency and fairness? And in general, are there strategies that we can think about? So as a microeconomist, I'm trained to always think about incentives and that people react to incentives. So both economic actors and political actors respond to incentives. And so in that framework, could we think about ways of disincentivizing individuals to try and manipulate the electoral process? So those are sort of three questions that I'd like the panelists to maybe think about and comment on, and also to get your perspectives on as well. In terms of some recommendations, there's been a lot of discussion on this. So PIDE, who are our hosts for this Econ Fest, there's a lot of work that's been done in terms of trying to think about reforming the electoral process. Javed Jabbar Saab has a very interesting article just before the elections in February, where he suggested two things. One was a mandatory voting system, so everybody who is eligible to vote must vote. And the idea is that elections, whoever forms government through this process, it should be representative. So you wouldn't want, for example, that only 10% of the electorate vote, and that determines who becomes the prime minister, right? Also, a second bold suggestion that he's made is that the winner must get at least 50% of the total electorate, plus one, right? So that's one. And there's other ones as well. So some people have suggested a shorter term for governments, not 5 years, but 4 years. People have thought about what they might call direct elections, so not proportional. And then we might also want to think about looking at, from the perspective of the institution, the state institution, which is responsible for carrying out elections, that's the Election Commission. And could we think about reform there that might help what we want to achieve? So those are some comments. Before we get to our panelists, I just want to quickly give you a sense of, here's some descriptive statistics. So some of these reforms that I've just mentioned, one way to track them, you might think, would be looking at turnout rates, right? Why are turnout rates interesting? Because they might reflect, for example, whether a candidate is particularly popular or not, right? We could look at it sort of breaking down by provinces or regions. So here's a little statistic here. This is taken from Fafan's publication. So this is just comparing the turnout rates from 2024 to 2018. And consistently across Islamabad and the provinces, 2024 saw a lower turnout rate, which I found a bit surprising as well. But this is just for the last 2 years. So then I started thinking about, okay, what's the general trend of turnout rates since 1970 onwards? And so this statistic over here, it's a little bit, I'll try and break it down for you. So each of the colored skyscrapers represent regions. So I'm breaking down Punjab into North Punjab, Central Punjab, South Punjab, and so on. KP is broken down into North KP, which is sort of Swat, the South KP, which is south of Peshawar. Then there's the Peshawar Valley, Hazara region, right? Sindh is broken into two things, Karachi and interior Sindh. And then Balochistan is grouped into Quetta, divided into Quetta and sort of the lower Makran region, right? And what you see from here is that generally, so 70s, you saw really high turnout rates. So 1970 elections, you had turnout rates almost touching 65, 70% in some regions. 77, you also saw higher turnout rates, but then it starts to dip. So all through the elections from the late 80s up to like the mid 90s or so, we have turnout rates hovering around 35, 40%, something like that. And of course, there is heterogeneity across regions. North and Central Punjab seem to be sort of the most politically active, right? And then as you enter the 21st century, so post 2002, there seems to be an upward trajectory in turnout rates, right? And this is almost pretty much uniform across the country. The largest turnout rates seem to be in 2013. where you also see a particular spike in both KP and Balochistan, where the turnout rates are significantly higher. Interestingly, 2018 on average across districts saw lower turnout rates than in 2013, right? So there doesn't seem to be sort of a linear trend. You might think about, there's this youth bulge, you might see higher rates of turnout because there's more young people, which you might think are more politically active. But that doesn't seem to be the case, right? So 2013, we see the highest spike, and then it dips in 2018 and also has gone even further down in 2024. So that's just some interesting, I think, statistics that I think are worth sharing. With that being said, and then going back to our thinking about our first three questions, if I could turn to my panelists, I'll start with sort of two questions for all three of my panelists. One is, I was very surprised by the election outcome in the sense that I think that nobody really, I think, predicted accurately what would happen in terms of the numbers that came out for PTI-backed candidates. So my first question is to all the panelists, are you surprised by that? And then second, more generally, and you can give your comments as you like, how do you see things progressing in the aftermath of February 8th and February 9th? So Dr. Saab, if you could start with you, please.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure and an honor to share this forum with Darfa Noor, Ijaz Roof Saab, and Osama Khan Saab. Ladies and gentlemen, it is quite a privilege for me as I am rerouting myself into Islamabad. I find this opportunity the first one to do that. I've looked at these questions, and we have been exploring these questions. These questions are very innocent questions. The good news is that free and fair elections can be held in Pakistan. And they have been held in Pakistan. The bad news is, at the moment, they cannot be held, and many of the past elections were neither free and nor fair. So we have to understand basically the structural issue of Pakistan's political order. Without understanding that, you will not be able to answer these questions and you will not be able to hold free and fair elections. I was a polling agent in 1970 elections. And I was part of the campaign, election campaigns at that time for 1 year. It was a year-long election campaign. At least in West Pakistan that we saw the electoral process with the election commission that we had, with the laws which were rather inadequate at that time, elections were free and fair. If you look at the mechanics, at that time there were no ID cards. It is a post-PPP phenomena. And Zulfikar Ali Bhutto may be credited with the national ID card system. So therefore, the polling agents in the station were tasked to identify the person, that whether he or she is the right person who is casting a vote or not. And we had objections, then that had to be resolved. Votes were counted before all of us. The number of votes polled by each candidate were put on paper, simple paper, no form 70, 47 or 45. And each one of us was given that paper, and everyone went home and tabulated and knew the results, whether they were winning or losing. So if elections like that can be held, what is the problem today? I think rigging and manipulation, which is both pre-poll, during the polls, and after the polls, is a systemic need of the hybrid system. So therefore, you have to address some difficult question. Who is manipulating elections and why? So is it the journalists manipulating it? It is the intellectuals manipulating it? Is it the political parties, ethnic groups, civil society? Who is manipulating it? And you have to find an answer for yourself. And probably most of you know the answer. I don't need to give you an answer. I want you to think about that. Then you have to think of another question. That what is the reason we have or we cannot hold free elections? And you can find the answer why we cannot hold free and fair elections. I told you, with this is history, and I am an eyewitness of that history. Therefore, I told you about 1970 elections, and a lot has been written on that elections by Pakistani students and scholars, and by Americans, by British, all over the world, because that was the first general elections in Pakistan's history. So, so what is the reason that we cannot hold free and fair elections? I think the answer is there. The third thing is that that what are the reforms measures that we can take in order to ensure that free and fair elections are held. If you look at the laws, for instance, whatever knowledge of these electoral laws I have, I don't find any flaws with them. I don't see anything wrong with the Election Commission itself. But then, if laws are not respected, if autonomy of Election Commission of Pakistan is not respected, if things happen as happened 6 or 5 or 7, 8 months, or about a year and a half before February 2024 elections, and during the election night, when, like most of you, I was watching the results and I was on the panel on Dunia television, live broadcasting the electoral results. So we saw all that happening. So, the question is not about laws. The question is about politics, institutional balance, and therefore, I think Pakistan society and those who, I use the word rulers and the ruling classes. There are rulers and there are ruling classes. There were traditional ruling classes and there are ruling classes that are a ruling class that has emerged because of its association with the power structure of the state. So the ruling classes of Pakistan, again, there's a big question. Do they think about your future of our generations, about our country, about investments? I mean, think of this very simple question, that Pakistani Prime Minister is insisting on UAE and Saudi Arabia using diplomacy and good personal relations to invest in Pakistan. The ruling class of Pakistan, according to Dubai Property Leaks, has invested $11 billion simply in that country. The ruling classes, do they care about free and fair elections? Do they care about democracy? Do they care about constitution that we talk about? Or do we care about the question that we are discussing? This is a big thing that you have to think of. So I think about the reform measures, you can present 101 reform measures that we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. In the hybrid system, and where the balance of power is somewhere else, not in the parliament, not in the constitution, you won't see free and fair elections. Even you gather the best of the intellectuals, electoral experts, and lawyers with tremendous experience around the world, and task them to write a good textbook for how to hold free and fair elections. It won't work in Pakistan. This is my primary thesis. Now, what can be done? I have to answer this question. What can be done? It can be done. It can be done, and that requires three things. One, the Constitution and constitutionality or constitutionalism must be enforced the way constitutionalism as a concept, as an idea, as a principle of jurisprudence is understood all over the world. Without that, you cannot hold any, you can't do anything. Constitutionalism. Constitution is sacred, in my view. Constitution is the social contract that other people discuss and talk about. Constitutionalism is a sacred book you have to respect. Now, for this to happen, I think three things have to happen. One is the political parties have to reach a consensus among themselves. Whether, this is a big question, whether they play the dark horses of the establishment or do they play the role of the representatives of the people of Pakistan. It is for them to decide. And if they reach the consensus that constitution and democracy has to be protected, then I think they have to be on one page. That is constitutionalism. It requires consensus. This is a phony consensus that we see all the time happening among different power groups within the political ruling class of Pakistan. That is phony. That is temporary. That is expedient. That is because of the urgency of certain situations and basically power politics. Second thing is that again, that cannot happen. The second thing is that judiciary has to be made independent. It has to act independent. It has to be independent. And then if political forces reach a settlement about constitutionalism and constitutionality, that will be nonsense. If the courts play the role of a power broker or a role of a court that the court has played during martial laws, right? So it is again very fundamental question for any country. Third thing is that how, as a country, as a society, as we are a polity, and we are a political community. We have all stakes in it: civil society, media, and everyone. That how we can ensure this long delayed democratic transition in Pakistan. I don't think that it took place very temporarily during the early phase of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's post-1971 elections, right? So how to ensure that how that is going to take place? To see that your difficult question. So I'm not getting into the macro. So to conclude, I believe that we have to do what the world has done. If elections can be held free and fair in 5 phases, and 1st June we are going to hear, and the ballots are secure and safe somewhere else, and somebody is guarding it, and that is trusted next door across the Wagah border, right? elections can be held free and fair here too. It's a question of will, agency, politics, consensus, agreement, and the question of balance of power. And if we don't settle it, I believe, if we don't settle it, Pakistan will continue to remain a rudderless ship in a rough sea of self-inflicted storms. So the choice is between what you have or the choices and what you have and what you can change for good. And by good, the political good is always, in my view, constitutionalism. Without that, you cannot guarantee human rights, decency. Look at what is happening. People disappear out of the blue. Don't hear about them, where they have gone. It should not happen in this country. And why there is such a silence across the spectrum of political ruling classes. The conversation in private drawing room is very different. So if you have a different conversation in your drawing rooms and different conversation in the open spaces, then you have a climate of fear. In a climate of fear, what you can suggest? So I don't think I have said everything I wanted to say, because I also live in a state of fear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Arifa Noor Saiba. So, Dr. Saab ne suggest ki thi
This
ke
is also necessary.
manipulation. So, two things I want to touch on that Dr. Saab said. One thing he said was manipulation of the system is a need of the hybrid system, right? So I want to focus on this term of hybrid system. Presumably, it's a hybrid system because each side also needs the other side, right? In terms of the civil and the military, right? So one question is, do you agree with that characterization? Second, do Dr. Saab ne kuch solutions suggest? He's quite an optimist, I think, in the sense that he thinks that we can have free and fair elections. So one solution suggests one, enforcement. So constitutionalism, if I want to sort of put it in colloquially, everybody plays by the rules of the game, right? And we were talking earlier about how that's not seem to be happening, right? So can we get that? He also mentioned consensus among political parties, right? Third, he mentioned independence of the judiciary. I would add to that independence of mainstream media as well. So my second question in relation to that is, as a journalist, do you feel that your community has disappointed the nation in terms of how it's in the aftermath of the general elections? Please.
Thank you, Ji. First, let me begin by a few clarifications. जब से मैंने टीवी शुरू किया, मुझे अंग्रेजी भूल गई है और उर्दू मेरी अभी भी ख़राब है. So I'll keep switching between the two languages. Forgive me for that. While I was listening to Rasool Saab talking, तो मुझे ख्याल आया कि free and fair elections की हम बहुत बात करते हैं. We've come to a point where I realize that the only way we can have free and fair elections is that the people of Pakistan realize that the only way to hold a free and fair election is if you vote the way the establishment wants you to. There is no other way. Because हमारा crisis जो होता है ना, वो शुरू यहाँ से होता है कि उनकी एक choice होती है, फिर जब तक वो सेट होता है सीन फॉर द इलेक्शंस, यू रियलाइज कि यार लोगों का मूड तो किसी और तरफ जा रहा है. सो 2018 का आप देख लें, 2013 का देख लें, 24 का देख लें. 2013 का इलेक्शन इसलिए हम फ्री एंड फेयर कहते हैं क्योंकि जो उनकी चॉइस थी और जो लोगों की चॉइस थी वो मोर और लेस सिमिलर थी. सो वो फ्री एंड फेयर इलेक्शन हो गया रिलेटिवली बाय पाकिस्तानी स्टैंडर्ड्स. सो दैट्स बेसिकली व्हाट इट इज. 70s तक तो आई मीन लाइक माई living memory doesn't go back that much, but बाकी हर इलेक्शन में क्राइसिस यही रहा है कि वो चाहते हैं कि एक इलेक्शन हो या रिजल्ट उसका एक हो, और लोग जो है वो जिद पकड़ के बैठ जाते हैं कि हमने किसी और के लिए वोट करना है. उसमें से सारा मसला निकलता है. हाइब्रिड सिस्टम तो यार है ना मुल्क के अंदर. आई मीन कब नहीं था, 90s की भी आप बात कर लें तो यही सिस्टम चल रहा था. 88 के इलेक्शंस जिस तरह हुए, जिस तरह बेनज़ीर भुट्टो ने इलेक्शन जीता डिस्पाइट ऑल द ब्लॉकेज. उसके बाद उन्होंने कहा प्राइम मिनिस्टर तुम तब बन सकती हो जब 3 मिनिस्ट्रीज़ जो है वो तुम हमारे हवाले कर दो, हम डिफेंस भी संभालेंगे. हम इकोनॉमी भी संभालेंगे और हम फॉरेन अफेयर्स भी संभालेंगे। तो वो भी हाइब्रिड नहीं था, फिर भी उन्होंने 20 महीने में हुकूमत को सैक कर दिया। So this idea that the hybrid system is somehow a new phenomenon that started to emerge post 2013 is beyond my understanding. I think it was always there. The actual shape that it takes tends to vary, and we can talk about that, और हम उसकी तफसीर में जा सकते हैं कि वो कितना था या कितना नहीं था, बट वो था तो हमेशा, और उसकी वजह से भी जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है वो एक तरफ है। And this also brings me back to this idea of electoral reforms. अगर मैं थोड़ा सा उसका जिक्र करूँ, बहुत ज़रूरी है, मगर electoral reform से हम कुछ मसले तो हल कर सकते हैं और उनकी हमें बात करनी बहुत ज़रूरी है ना। I'll just come to that. मगर इस्टेब्लिशमेंट की इंटरफेरेंस जो है ना इलेक्शंस में, चाहे वो 2018 है 2024, उसको हमने इलेक्टोरल रिफॉर्म से नहीं हैंडल करना। सियासी मसला सियासत से ही हल होगा। I mean, you know, we can't say that we will bring in, which is what we have been doing, and by the way, we continue to do it. आप अगर आज भी बहस सुने ना, तो वो कहते हैं कि जी किसी को शिकायत है, आज वो पीटीआई के बारे में कह रहे हैं 2018 में पीएमएलएन को भी यही कहा जाता था, आपको इलेक्शन से शिकायत है, आप लीगल रास्ता इख्तियार करें। भाई वो लीगल रास्ते से नहीं मसला हल होगा। These are political problem, politics से ही रिजॉल्व होगा। So we have to keep this in mind also. Point number 2, which brings me to point number 3, which is कि electoral reforms बहुत से हम इसलिए भी करते हैं क्योंकि हम समझते हैं कि establishment की interference को हम कम करेंगे। ये जो Form 45 की आज बात होती है, Form 45 की ओरिजिनल द कॉन्सेप्ट केम फ्रॉम द 1990 इलेक्शन, क्योंकि 1990 इलेक्शन को इतना मैनिपुलेट किया गया था, और उस वक्त क्योंकि पाकिस्तान पीपल्स पार्टी को हरवाया गया था, तो उनके लिए सबसे बड़ा मसला ये था कि उनको पोलिंग स्टेशन से जो रिजल्ट्स मिल रहे थे वो उनके ख्याल में मैनिपुलेटेड थे, या जो ऊपर पहुंचाए गए थे वो मैनिपुलेटेड थे, उनके पास जो थे फ़र्क थे। उसके बाद ये इलेक्टोरल रिफॉर्म्स का प्रोसेस शुरू हुआ था, जिसमें कहा गया था कि जी जिसको हम गालबन पहले फॉर्म 14 कहते थे, अब वो फॉर्म 45 बन गई है कि उसके ऊपर सबके दस्तखत होंगे। वो भी खैर हमने कर लिया, उन्होंने उसका भी हल ढूंढ लिया। 2018 के इलेक्शन में फॉर्म 45 पहुंचा ही नहीं लोगों तक। 2024 में अगर फॉर्म 45 पहुंच गया तो उन्होंने वो अगले फॉर्म के अंदर मसला हल कर लिया। सो एज आई सेड, यू नो, इट्स अ गेम ऑफ whack-a-mole जो हम वो खेलते हैं वीडियो आर्केड्स में जाके, कि you hit on one head and 5 others pop up. So it is a political problem. We're going to have to address it in the political sphere. But what I'd like to just talk a little bit beyond the immediate problem, which is not to say that this is not a major crisis, is to say कि हमने दोनों चीज़ों को देखना है। हमने एक इस चीज़ को देखना है कि इस्टेब्लिशमेंट की इंटरफेरेंस को कैसे ख़त्म करना है, और इसमें कहीं ना कहीं उनको खुद पीछे हटना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज दी ओनली अदर ऑप्शन इज़ कि अगर वो पीछे नहीं हटते तो फिर दी ओनली अदर ऑप्शन इज़ कि कोई बहुत ज़्यादा ही टर्मोइल आ जाए सोसाइटी में, कोई रेवोल्यूशन जैसी। तो बेहतर यही है, उम्मीद यही करें कि उनको एहसास हो कि उनको पीछे हटना चाहिए, ना कि इस कॉन्फ्रंटेशन को उस हद तक हम लेके जाएं कि हम सारा स्टेट सिस्टम किसी दिन ऊपर नीचे हो जाए। बट दैट इज, आई थिंक, वन एस्पेक्ट फॉर इट। रिफॉर्म की हमें और भी बहुत चीज़ों की ज़रूरत है, हमें उस पर भी साथ साथ ही बहस करनी चाहिए। मेरे ख्याल में वी नीड टू टॉक अबाउट प्रोपोर्शनल रिप्रेजेंटेशन। हम क्यों नहीं बात करते इसके ऊपर? मेरे ख्याल में हमें इस पर भी बात करनी चाहिए कि हमारी जो लोग इलेक्ट होते हैं, हमारी इलेक्टोरल एक्सरसाइज जो है वो एक ऐसे लेवल पर पहुंच गई है इन टर्म्स ऑफ एक्सपेंसेस, इन टर्म्स ऑफ दिस इलेक्शन डे की साइंस, दैट ओनली द वेरी रिच एंड द वेरी प्रिविलेज्ड गेट इलेक्टेड। हम क्यों नहीं इस चीज़ पे भी बात करते कि वी नीड अ मोर डाइवर्स रिप्रेजेंटेशन, जिसके अंदर वर्किंग क्लास से भी लोग आए, पेजेंट क्लास से भी आए। किस तरह होंगे, मेरे पास इसके जवाब नहीं है। प्रोपोर्शनल रिप्रेजेंटेशन पे सबसे पहले ये तनकीद होगी कि उससे पार्टीज़ की जो लीडरशिप है, जो अभी भी बहुत ज़्यादा सेंट्रलाइज्ड है और डायनेस्टिक है, वो शायद ज़्यादा स्ट्रेंथन हो जाए। सो आई ऑल्सो रियलाइज दैट दिस इज़ अ प्रॉब्लम। एंड obviously, one last point quickly before I will end here. we also need to really think of what this federation stands for. मेरे ख्याल में Pakistan came out of this entire debate of what are minority rights. You know, it is not enough to have a country and it is not enough to say कि एक इंसान का एक वोट होगा. पाकिस्तान बना ही इसलिए था क्योंकि हमने कहा नहीं भाई, ये मुख्तलिफ माइनॉरिटीज़ हैं तो इनके जो राइट्स होते हैं ना, ये सिर्फ वन मैन वन राइट के लिए इज़ नॉट इनफ. और हम आज उस चीज़ को भूल गए हैं. एंड this brings me to Balochistan. I think we need to understand and we need to ask ourselves this question कि हम एक अच्छी डेमोक्रेसी भी बना लेंगे तो जो हमने अपने एक मुल्क के एक सूबे को इतना साइडलाइन किया हुआ है, जब तक हम फेडरल लेवल पे रिलेशनशिप को रिवाइज नहीं करेंगे, हम इसको किस तरह तब्दील करेंगे. एंड हियर आई एम गोइंग टू से समथिंग वेरी कंट्रोवर्शियल. मेरे सारे जो दोस्त हैं, कॉलीग्स हैं, उनको चार्टर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी का एक बहुत जो क्या कहते हैं कैमलॉट हमने उसको बनाया हुआ है कि चार्टर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी हो गया था तो पता नहीं हमने क्या कमाल कर लिया इस मुल्क के अंदर, हमने जमहूरियत बहाल कर ली. माई बिगेस्ट क्रिटिसिज्म ऑफ द चार्टर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी इज एट दैट इन द चार्टर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी पाकिस्तान की जो दो सबसे बड़ी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज थी, उन्होंने कहा कि आप पंजाब और सिंध के ऊपर हमें हुकूमत करने दें, बलोचिस्तान में आप जो मर्जी करें, हम आपसे सवाल नहीं पूछेंगे. दिस वॉज ऑल्सो एन अनसेड थिंग इन द चार्टर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी. जो हम बार बार ये जिक्र करते हैं कि 2013 से, माफ़ करिएगा, 2008 से 2013 तक हमने इस मुल्क के अंदर जमहूरियत को स्ट्रेंथन होते देखा. ये वो पीरियड है जब बलोचिस्तान एंड देयर वर पार्ट्स ऑफ खैबर पख्तूनख्वा जहाँ रियासत का इतना वायलेंस हुआ और उस वायलेंस को हमारे हर इलेक्टेड लेजिस्लेचर ने लेजिटिमाइज किया. तो ये भी अब हमें मानने की ज़रूरत है कि ये उस चार्टर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी में एक वीक पॉइंट था. वी हैव टू एक्सेप्ट दिस. So when we talk about democracy or electoral reforms, it is not enough to just get stuck on that first point, though it's a very important point. देखिए, सोसाइटी में रिफॉर्म की बात हर वक्त होनी चाहिए और हर इशू पे होनी चाहिए. तो हमने जहाँ इस्टेब्लिशमेंट का जिक्र करना है, क्योंकि वो शायद हमारे लिए सबसे बड़ा मसला इस वक्त है और हमें उस पर बात करनी चाहिए कि ये इस तरह तो चल नहीं सकता. हमें ये बाकी गुफ्तगू भी साथ साथ चलानी है और हमें ये जो अपने छोटे सूबे हैं इनकी रिप्रेजेंटेशन किस तरह बेहतर करनी है इन द फेडरल डिसीजन मेकिंग स्ट्रक्चर. And that also has to be part of it. And when we criticize things like the Charter of Democracy, it is not to say कि ये useless है, इनको उठा के खिड़की से बाहर फेंक दें, but say कि ये इनमें कमजोरियां रह गई हैं, अब चलें बात करते हैं इसको किस तरह एड्रेस करेंगे. इस तरह वो एक चीज़ को लेके हम फ्रोजन इन टाइम के चार्टर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी 2008 में बड़ा अच्छा था, सब पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को बात करनी चाहिए. भाई बात तब भी दो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज नहीं की थी, फौज के साथ भी और आपस में भी, बाकी किसी ने बात नहीं की थी. तो अब लेट्स इफ वी रियली थिंक दैट इट्स द सोल्यूशन, सो एटलीस्ट उसमें सब पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज तो बैठे और छोटे सूबों के साथ जो ज्यादती हुई तब वो उसको तो हम एड्रेस करने की कोशिश करें, फिर आगे इलेक्शंस की बात करेंगे. रिफॉर्म भी बहुत ज़रूरी है. लो टर्नआउट की आपने बात की, सॉरी आई वेंट ऑल ओवर द प्लेस, बट दैट्स अ प्रॉब्लम ऑफ बीइंग अ जर्नलिस्ट. हमें फोकस डिस्कशन करनी नहीं आती, वी जस्ट कीप जंपिंग फ्रॉम टॉपिक टू टॉपिक. आप लो टर्नआउट की बात करते हैं. सर देखिए, मसला ये है कि जब आपने ये फैसला ही किया हुआ है ना कि उन्होंने इलेक्शन में लोगों की हमने बात तो सुननी नहीं है, तो फिर तो आप लो टर्नआउट ही चाहते हैं हर दफ़े. तो लो टर्नआउट इसलिए नहीं है क्योंकि लोग वोट नहीं डालना चाहते. लो टर्नआउट इसलिए बिकॉज मैनिपुलेट करना इलेक्शन को आसान होता है. तो मैं अगले दिन पढ़ रही थी, यूके में वो इलेक्शन अनाउंस करें, छोटा सा मुल्क है, उसका आप साइज देखिए. उन्होंने कहा सुबह 7 बजे वोटिंग शुरू होती है, रात के 11 बजे तक चलती है. हमारे मुल्क का आप साइज देखिए, 9 बजे भी पोलिंग स्टेशन वो खोलते नहीं है, 12 बजा देते हैं, 5 बजे वो बंद कर देते हैं. 6 महीने जिन टीवी चैनल्स का आपने जिक्र किया कि कितनी सेंसरशिप है, 6 महीने वो डिस्कशन करते रहे कि लो टर्नआउट होगा. भाई क्यों कह रहे हो लो टर्नआउट होगा? जाके पूछा है किसी से? नहीं, क्योंकि कहा गया था कि लो टर्नआउट की बात करो ताकि लोग पहले से ही डिस्करेज हो जाएं, वो वोट करने ना आए, हमारे लिए आसानी रहेगी. तो हमारा तो सारा इलेक्टोरल सिस्टम जो है ना, वो उसका तो फोकस ही दूसरा है कि आप लोग वोट ना करें, खामखा आ जाते हैं हर दफे वोट करने, मुसीबत डालने. सो यू सी, यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड वेयर द स्ट्रक्चर इज कमिंग फ्रॉम. वी डोंट वांट पीपल टू वोट.
Thank you. And just very quickly, Ji, on the, yeah, please. Just so as a journalist, your response to sort of the question of independence of media, especially in the aftermath of February 8th.
So you see, that would require a discussion on its own. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. आपने मेरी दुखती रग पर हाथ छेड़ा है मीडिया की बात करके. देखिए, मीडिया के ऑब्वियसली बहुत से मसले हैं और बहुत अरसे से रहे हैं. मेजर प्रॉब्लम यहाँ भी स्ट्रक्चरल है पाकिस्तानी मीडिया का. इट्स सो डिपेंडेंट ऑन द रेवेन्यूज फ्रॉम द स्टेट that it's very difficult to have an independent voice on the media. आपकी अगर सारी इकोनॉमी इसलिए चल रही है क्योंकि एड्स आपके कहाँ से आ रहे हैं, आपका डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम कौन कंट्रोल कर रहा है. फिर अब वो जो तीसरा तरीका आ गया है कि लीगली आप कॉन्स्टेंटली प्रेशर करते रहते हैं, शो कॉज नोटिस से, पेमरा की इंस्ट्रक्शन से. तो फिर फ्री मीडिया का तो कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं है, क्योंकि जो मीडिया चल रहा है, जो वो पैसे कमा रहा है, वो इसलिए तो नहीं कमा रहा क्योंकि आप लोग उसको देख रहे हैं. वो मीडिया तो वो पैसे कमा रहे हैं क्योंकि उसको गवर्नमेंट से एड्स मिल रहे हैं. तो वो तो एज इट इज वी टर्न द कॉन्सेप्ट over its head, because the viewer is, or the reader has never been important to the Pakistani media. We don't make money because you read or watch us. We make money because the government gives us money. So now with the kind of crisis we have, where उनको ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा अब जोर इस्तेमाल करना पड़ रहा है टू कंट्रोल द पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन, वही प्रेशर्स जो है दे कम टू बेयर ऑन द मीडिया. एंड आई थिंक आप नोट करें, आई जस्ट क्विकली एंड ऑन दिस बिकॉज स्वरूप साहब ने भी गुफ्तगू करनी है, कि पिछले साल डेढ़ में जितने भी सहाफ़ी हैं जिनके ऊपर ज़्यादातर एटलीस्ट इन द सेंटर ऑफ पाकिस्तान, द मोर मेन स्ट्रीम एरियाज, या वो मारे गए हैं या उनको मार पड़ी है या वो पकड़े गए हैं, अरेस्ट हुए, वो सब सोशल मीडिया के थे. उनको अब व्हेन वाज द लास्ट टाइम कि कोई उन्होंने टीवी का एंकर अरेस्ट किया हो या गायब किया हो? अब उनको मसला मेन स्ट्रीम टेलीविजन से नहीं है. कोई चैनल नहीं बंद हुआ पिछले कुछ सालों में, कोई एंकर जो है उसके ऊपर कोई FIR नहीं कटी. अरशद शरीफ मारा गया तो वो वीलॉग कर रहा था, असद अली तूर अरेस्ट हुआ तो वो वीलॉग कर रहा था. जो कश्मीरी पोएट हैं जो आजकल गायब हुए हैं, उनके भी सोशल मीडिया पोस्ट से एतराज़ था. सो नाउ द चैलेंज टू द स्टेट in terms of information, in terms of reporting, in terms of views as an analysis or opinion, is coming from social media. It is not coming from mainstream media.
Thank you. Ijaz Saab, since you're a lawyer and also a human rights activist, building on what Dr. Saab said and what Arifa Noor Saiba said, very simple question. Given the reality of the hybrid regime system, can we learn to, two-part question. First part, can we define the rules of the game so that everybody agrees to play by those rules, right? Whoever does the decision making, right? Can we learn to play by the rules of the game, right? And second, related to this, can we do so in a country where it seems like the state has a monopoly on more than just violence, right? वो media का भी, mainstream media का भी जिक्र हुआ, but also if you look at agricultural production, real estate, you see where I'm going with this, right? So just on those two things, and then whatever else you like to sort of add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think a lot has been said already. Firstly, I'm very grateful to Pied, to Lums, very privileged to share this stage. And is this fine? Share this stage with Dr. Rasool Bag Sahib, Dr. Osama, and Arfa Saiba. I think the first question of the rules of the game. I think what has been said already, so I'll not repeat all of that. I agree with much of what has been said. I think there is a crisis at the moment of the rules of the game. And the crisis, it seems, is when you started with the 2024 elections, and one of the questions that you put on the slide was incentives and disincentives for electoral rigging or manipulation, etc. I think the fundamental problem at the moment has become that the consensus on procedural democracy as a good thing, as a desirable thing, कि election होने चाहिए, वो एक अच्छी बात है. I think that has been shaken. That has been shaken around the world. There is a crisis of democracy and there is a crisis of elections around the world. अभी अमेरिका में आप देख रहे हैं, and which is manifesting itself in all kinds of new things. One, it's not a Pakistani problem, probably not a particularly acute Pakistani example, but we are seeing globally, for example, a new thing, to my knowledge. We're seeing a tension between, let's say, liberalism and democracy, where a big part of liberal thought is now that if illiberal means are necessary to use and democratic means are necessary to be used to keep illiberal forces out, that's fine. We'll see more of that as we lead up to November in the United States. तो जहां पर ये आइडिया था ना कि इलेक्शन इन इटसेल्फ बहुत अच्छी चीज है और इलेक्शन के बाद देखेंगे, और वो जो मीन्स और एंड्स वाली बात थी, वो पाकिस्तान में इलेक्शन की मैनिपुलेशन जाहिर है हो गई बात कि मुख्तलिफ तरह की होती है. हम तो एक सेंट्रलाइज्ड मैनिपुलेशन की बात कर रहे हैं ना, जो स्टेट की तरफ से आ रही है. जाहिर आप तो मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन, डिस इन्फॉर्मेशन लोकल लेवल पे, वो तो एक अलग दुनिया में बात हो रही है. देखिए उसमें वो फंडामेंटल बात ये है कि जो इलेक्शन की जो बहुत ज्यादा रिगिंग होती थी, बहुत बारीक, उसकी बात ये थी कि जीतने वाला जो है वो ये कहेगा कि मैं सही जीता हूं. दैट वाज द पॉइंट ऑफ इट, राइट? इट हैड टू बी सो स्लाई, सो सीक्रेटिव कि मैं सही जीता हूं. अब जीतने वाला नहीं कहता ये, नॉट विद एनी हार्ट इन इट. पिछले एक दो इलेक्शनों से वो ये नहीं कह रहे कि जाहिर है कुछ तो कहना है अगर वो तकरीर करनी पड़े या टीवी पे बैठना पड़े, पर वो एक्चुअली वो ये नहीं कह रहे कि मैं अवाम की दिलों में धड़क रहा हूं. वो नहीं कह रहे, वो कुछ और कह रहे हैं. वो ये कह रहे हैं कि इलेक्शनों की भी जो भी बात है, हम जीत गए हैं और मुल्क जो है हमारे मुतबादिल का मुतहम्मिल नहीं हो सकता. 2018 में भी यही बात थी, 24 में भी यही बात है. और वो ये कह ही नहीं रहा कि मैं एक फेयर एंड फ्री इलेक्शन से जीता हूं और फेयर एंड फ्री इलेक्शन बहुत जरूरी चीज है, और जो उनका सपोर्टर है वो भी ये नहीं कह रहा. सो व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट द रूल्स ऑफ द गेम, आई थिंक समथिंग फंडामेंटल हैज हैपेंड पिछले कुछ एक दो इलेक्शन साइकिल में, जहां पर जो मीन्स और एंड्स की बात है वो बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेटेड हो गई है. जहां पर ये है कि भाई इलेक्शन तो ठीक है, थोड़ी बहुत ही करना पड़ता है ऐसे, लेकिन ये कैसे चलेगी मईशत, हमारे फॉरेन रिलेशंस कैसे चलेंगे अगर फला शख्स आ गया. 18 में भी यही था कि देखें वो तो इलेक्शन, हम नहीं कहते कि इसको A+ ग्रेड मिलेगा और ये हो सकता है C- इलेक्शन हो, लेकिन अब मुल्क भी तो चलाना है. अच्छा, ये जो बात है, दैट इज नाउ, इट हैज ऑलवेज कम फ्रॉम अ सर्टेन सेक्शन ऑफ द स्टेट. नाउ इट इज सीप्ड इन, आई फियर, in the political conversation in a different way, where the winners and losers are not making these. So we're kind of hammering on open doors. मैंने से ये election rigged है और हम साबित कर देंगे, भाई कोई, nobody's arguing the counterpoint. It's shadow boxing. There's nobody saying this election is fair and you're saying I will now do this grand expose of how it's not fair. Nobody's saying that. Not with any heart. Nobody's heart is in it. वो कह रहे हैं कि भाई बाबा हो गया इलेक्शन, इस मुल्क में पहले भी ऐसे होता रहा है, आगे चलो, हमने मईशत ठीक करनी है वगैरह वगैरह. अच्छा, ये 18 में भी हुआ, इसका 13 में भी एक वर्जन था, अब 24 में भी इसका एक वर्जन है. So that is a crisis. That is a crisis and that's again maybe a global crisis, which is that paradoxically, as more people are becoming interested in politics, at the same time they are losing faith in the process of it. ये जो एक कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन है ना, जो पोलराइजेशन की, यूथ की, सोशल मीडिया की, जहां पे ज्यादा लोग जो है वो सियासत में इन्वॉल्व हैं, और एंड दैट आई थिंक हमारे जैसे जहां पर एक सेंट्रल मैनिपुलेशन हो सकती है, I think उनको they have kind of lucked out on this for the moment, which is कि इतनी polarized space में जहां पर कैलकुलेशन ये है कि जो भी हारेगा वो कहेगा कि धांधली तो हुई थी. धांधली कम होती है आमतौर पे, इस बार ज्यादा मसाला डल गया. तो मुझे क्या जरूरत है, क्या इंसेंटिव है मेरा एक फ्री इलेक्शन कराने का? मेरा इंसेंटिव फ्री इलेक्शन कराने का क्या है? मेरा वो ये है कि तमाम लोग खड़े होकर कहें कि ये इलेक्शन फ्री था. अब ये मुझे पता है कि ये मुमकिनात में ही नहीं है. I can do an election. We live in such a polarized space that you can do whatever you want to. जो डॉक्टर साहब कह रहे थे कि आप दुनिया से एक्सपर्ट ले आए, आप एक इलेक्शन करा दें. The defeated candidate would say it is rigged, right? So then why not rig it in the first place and have my desired outcome? गालियां तो मुझे पड़ेंगी ना. तो अच्छा, ये एक बात इससे कॉम्प्लिकेटेड हो गई है. आई थिंक जो दूसरी, बट बाकी मेरा ख्याल है बहुत सारी बातें हो चुकी. बट आई थिंक इन द सम वे फॉरवर्ड थिंग, कुछ एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं हमारे. अब बिकॉज आरफा साहिबा मेंशन द यूके इलेक्शन, as the UK will elect members of the Commons. UK has a population, if I'm somewhere between 65 to 66 million people. 6.5 crore लोग हैं. The House of Commons has 650 members. पाकिस्तान की 24 करोड़ आबादी है और 342 हैं. वहां पर 6.5 करोड़ आबादी है और वहां 650 मेंबर हैं. ये जो सेंट्रलाइज्ड एक्सरसाइजेज होती हैं ऑफ मैनिपुलेशन और मैनेजमेंट, दे रिक्वायर टॉप डाउन बिग यूनिट्स. जिस तरह 18th अमेंडमेंट हैज चेंज्ड, आरफा साहिबा जो बात कर रही थी उसकी एक आई थिंक लिंक टू दैट इज 18th अमेंडमेंट हैज चेंज्ड सम थिंग्स फंडामेंटली. क्योंकि जो मैनेजर्स होते हैं और बिग ऑपरेशंस, वो बैठ के मैनेज किया जा सकता है. 50-100 सीट मैनेज की जा सकती है. लेकिन पाकिस्तान की इलेक्टोरल कंस्टिट्यूएंसी जो है, आई मीन आई डोंट हैव फिगर्स, बट इट विल बी ऑन वन ऑफ द बिगर कंस्टिट्यूएंसीज इन द वर्ल्ड. हमारी जो एक एक इलेक्शन अच्छा, और वो क्या करता है, वो जो इलेक्शन रिफॉर्म की बात है, इलेक्शन प्रोसेस, जो इलेक्शन कमीशन की बात हुई थी, इलेक्शन कमीशन का काम शुरू होता है जब वो वोटर लिस्टें बनाता है, वोटर, एंड इट गोज टू notification and resolution of all election disputes and everything in the middle. And what the big voter constituency does, it creates firstly barriers. It creates barriers of we've I think talked about its finance of people who can contest the election. ये अभी पिछले हफ्ते इंडिया में ये हो रहा है कि उधर हमसे ज्यादा है. उधर मेरा ख्याल है 5 मिलियन है, जो 5 मिलियन इंडियन रुपीस है इलेक्शन का बजट. हमारा को 20 से 30 लाख है पाकिस्तानी. अच्छा, वी स्टार्ट विद द lie, right? When you say in the Elections Act 2017 or previously the Representation of the People's Act of 1976, when you say that, and when I win the election, the first thing that I do, literally the first thing that I do, is lie on a sworn affidavit. I'm not being sort of a great moralist here, but that's literally one of the first things after the election that you do is you sign a declaration saying that I have complied with X, Y, Z, including the expense guidelines of the election commission. यानी कि मैंने 20 लाख रुपए लगाए और मैं एमएनए बन गया. अच्छा, ये it poisons the well. वो मैं कह रहा हूँ कि बहुत, I don't want to be सिर्फ ये कि बहुत मैं सुपर मॉरलिस्ट हो रहा हूँ, लेकिन poisons the well ना. आप बात ये कि आपने लॉ बना दिया, आपको पता है ये फॉलो नहीं होगा. लेकिन जब आपकी कंस्टिट्यूएंसी होती है जो जिसमें 30 लाख वोटर है, 20 लाख वोटर है, तो उसका मतलब है पहले आपने वो स्ट्रक्चरल बैरियर क्रिएट कर दिया, फिर आपने बैरियर क्रिएट कर दिया डिस्टेंस का, फिर आपने बैरियर क्रिएट कर दिया जो CNIC का. पाकिस्तान has 10 million missing women voters, which basically means that women who according to census exists. So I mean this is taken from the Amartya Sen missing women thing, but so missing women voters, so women who exist but are not voters. and they're not voters because they don't have computerized identification cards. तो पाकिस्तान में 80 से 90 लाख खवातीन ऐसी हैं, अगर वो बैरियर्स हो गए तो उसके अलावा जाहिर है I think a lot has been said already, but I think a way forward there is the political part of it, which Arfa is exactly right. That is there is no legal prescription to this. This is like saying, why doesn't the parliament make a law, or Pakistani parliament, any parliament, make a law which can prevent military takeovers? Well, it cannot, because something which the Pakistani Supreme Court bar gave is something which is supra-constitutional. I mean, which happens outside, उसको तो आप prevent नहीं कर सकते. That's like making a law saying कि जंग नहीं होगी. आप तो अपने framework का law बना सकते हो. Rigging के रोकने के लिए law बना मुश्किल cost बढ़ा सकते हैं. जिस तरह मैंने कहा कि the less centralized this is, the more difficult it is. If there are 1,000 National Assembly seats, I'm just bringing the number. I'm not saying. It is an objectively good thing. It is not only a thing to sort of ward off rigging. It's an objectively good thing in terms of who can contest, in terms of inclusivity, in terms of representation, in terms of turnouts. So that's one thing. The second bit, I think, on the election commission, etc. हमने जब 2017 में ये लॉ बनाया तो उससे पहले 8 कवानीन एग्जिस्ट करते थे, 7 से 8. I think 8 laws dealt with it. वो consolidate हो गए, एक कानून बन गया. I think it's a fine law generally. I'm not saying that there's a fundamental problem with the Elections Act 2017. ARFA has given the example. आपने Form 45 में ये भी कर दिया कि polling agents के sign होंगे, जो previous Form 14 था. अच्छा, वो तो तब है कि मैं बहुत interested हूँ as the centralized authority who's doing this to maintain credibility. I mean, I care about it, but this is not the hill that I'll die on. This is not going to be my Waterloo, not my address. ठीक है, अगर हो गया तो हो गया, नहीं तो ठीक है. So that I think is a fundamental problem. Another related problem which I should add, because it didn't come up, कि election commission का reform जब पाकिस्तान में कहते हैं तो आप देखिए election कौन करवाता है? Election commission तो manage करती है. एक तो caretaker government कराती है. I think जिसका at best ये कहा जा सकता है कि कोई फायदा या कोई नुकसान नहीं है. If you get the best caretaker government ever, that would mean कि कोई नुकसान नहीं हुआ.
सॉरी, मैं सिर्फ इंटरजेक्ट कर रही हूँ कि इस दफे जो हमने अंग्रेजी सुनी है ना, हमें बड़ा नुकसान हुआ है उसका.
मैं उसकी नहीं वो मैं तो नहीं हमारा वो मैंने आपको मुहावरा बता दिया, वो मैं भी नहीं करूंगा. अच्छा, तो एक लेकिन so that's one the part. But the second bit is कि इलेक्शन कौन करवाता है? इलेक्शन हमारी एक कॉलोनियल ब्यूरोक्रेसी कराती है. डीसीओ डीपीओ इलेक्शन कराते हैं ना, डीसीएसपी ऑफ. So part of it is not reforming the election commission as a coordinating agency. Part of it is, unless you reform or have a conversation on reforming the bureaucracy, which actually not only supervises the election, but supervises those territories where those elections take place. As opposed to saying, I can make you a grand plan, sort of cutting edge, copy paste from sort of, plagiarize from some election commission, election body that exists, which does it very transparently, sort of, but it doesn't matter, right? It matters. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but it is very small part of the puzzle. It's like sort of, so that is a larger bureaucracy reform conversation. Last thing I'd say on this is circling back to it. Political cost of elections, of rigging elections, when it goes up, rigging goes
Down.
and that cost at the moment is, in some ways you can say it's gone up, right? Because nobody is taken in line down वगैरह. लेकिन मेरा ख्याल है कि इसका एक और flip side भी ये है, when you have fractured the polity and the political space, or if you have not fractured it, it has fractured itself, whatever has happened. To this extent, where firstly, sort of, these facts are not particularly important, where it's not like 1970, which is not saying that, you know, कि कोई ये राइट और लेफ्ट की लड़ाई नहीं है. आप नहीं कह रहे कि भुट्टो साहब जो है वो सबसे पॉपुलर लीडर है. आप ये कह ही नहीं रहे. आप तो ये कह ही नहीं रहे कि मेरा लीडर को सबसे पॉपुलर लीडर. आप कह रहे हैं मेरा लीडर तो सबसे अच्छा जीरक ज़हीन आदमी है जो मईशत दुरुस्त करेगा और फॉरेन पॉलिसी दुरुस्त करेगा. और हर कोई अपने लीडर के बारे में कह रहे हैं. सो दैट आई थिंक that political consensus. So while I agree with Arfa Sahiba's view that, you know, the Charter of Democracy is of course is not a perfect document at all by any means, but लेकिन उसमें जो बात थी ना, जैसे 18th Amendment flow की, so I'll end it though. So I think the part of it is to have a similar kind of thing, and the second is that's a political consensus conversation, and the second is if you can't do it, devolve, decentralize, make it more messy.
Yeah. So the worth of one particular NA seat is then just naturally smaller because you have a lot more of them, right? Thank you. I have a ton of questions, but we have about 5 minutes. I'll open the. Oh, we have. किसन से शुरू कर, राइट से शुरू करते हैं जी, and we'll go down that way.
कि हम बात करते हैं इलेक्टोरल रिफॉर्म्स की, बड़े सेटअप को जाके छेड़ने की. मैं आपको एक छोटी सी एग्जांपल देता हूँ, क्योंकि मेरा सवाल छोटा किसी को समझ नहीं आता, थोड़ी बड़ा करके समझा देते हैं कि आप किसी सिस्टम का हिस्सा हैं, बहुत छोटे से सिस्टम का हिस्सा हैं. आप उधर अगर किसी को अकाउंटेबल करें, किसी को बोलें कि यार तुम गलत हो, तो पूरा सिस्टम यानी 8-10 लोगों का सिस्टम है ना, तो वो भी आपको कहेगा भाई इस तरह नहीं करो, अगर यहाँ रहना है तो इस तरह नहीं करो. मैं ज़्यादा इसकी डिटेल्स में नहीं जाऊँगा कि ये एग्ज़ाम्पल किधर से है या क्या है. मतलब मैंने आपको एक बड़ा बेसिक सा सिस्टम बताया. मैं वैसे तो स्टूडेंट हूँ, कहाँ से हूँ ये भी नहीं बताऊँगा. और एक और बात ये बताऊँगा कि एक जगह पे मैं असिस्टेंट मैनेजर हूँ, ठीक है. तो ये बात समझ लें वहाँ से आई है, ठीक है. अब एक बंदे को आप छेड़ेंगे, 8 लोग आपको रिजिस्ट करेंगे, और आपसे ऊपर जो सीनियर मैनेजमेंट बैठी हुई है वो आपको बोलेगी कि भाई नहीं करो, हमने डेडलाइंस कवर करनी है, अगर इन्हें छेड़ोगे या आपका काम रोकेंगे तो आप छोटा सिस्टम ठीक करना शुरू करें ताकि बड़ा सिस्टम ठीक हो सके.
You any responses to this? Start maybe आप कह रहे हैं कि local, so starts at the lower level, वहाँ से ठीक करें. Responses very quickly, and then I'll go to the second question. Anybody who would like to go?
नहीं, बिल्कुल. देखिए, ये तो बात आपकी बिल्कुल दुरुस्त है कि सिस्टम तो कोई भी सिस्टम जो है वो विलिंगली तो रिफॉर्म नहीं होता. इसीलिए हम तो ये बात ये कर रहे थे, जो मैं अर्ज कर रहा था वो ये नहीं था कि खाली वो सिस्टम अंदर से रिफॉर्म हो और इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान जो है वो अपने आप को रिफॉर्म कर लेगा. लेकिन जब आपका पॉलिटिकल कंसेंसस बन जाएगा तो वो जो आपका इदारा है जो आपने राज रखा जहां भी, वो तो नहीं रिफॉर्म करेगा ना. लेकिन द सराउंडिंग कॉन्टेक्स्ट चेंजेस. सो यस, द होप ऑफ एनीवन, even the best of us, to hold ourselves accountable, to reform ourselves, is a feeble hope for individuals or institutions.
Thank you, sir, and then we'll go to sir.
First of all, thank you so much for the very informative, to all the speakers, and I am really glad. I thought we would not be discussing the elephant in the room, but I'm really happy that people have discussed the elephant in the room. I want to go into the nuts and bolts of the electoral reform and so forth. There were some prescriptions that were given at the very start. I've done some work on electoral reforms too. The first one was, I am primarily trained as an economist, but I study human behavior too. The first one was that making mandatory vote, I personally feel it's kind of childish. You can't restrict people, because if you can force people to vote, you can also force them not to vote, basically. We can talk about incentives. There's behavioral science, economics. We're talking about nudge theory or something that could be done. But I can say to force people to vote is kind of childish, because the coin can also be flipped, right? Second one is there was a prescription saying that at least 50% you should get the vote in one constituency. अगर नहीं होता तो are you going to run a re-election? पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे? We don't have that much money. So these are very like low-hanging fruits we want to discuss. But Arfa Sahaba discussed about something which is shifting to some kind of a proportional system or trying to explore it, And I know there's very different types of proportional systems, and also at what level you're talking, kiski proportion बढ़ानी है आपने, But let's say you are talking about in terms of number of votes, So what happens is, in my research, I've found that very quickly, when you have some kind of a proportional system in which even people who don't win, like that's deviating from first past the post, those people who might not have enough seats, those fringe parties also end up getting more seats. And then they ultimately have more power, So are we ready for that? The fringe parties, they could either be on the left. Sadly, there are actually none on the left, to be honest, but on the right, getting more seats. Let's say a right fringe party has like 25 seats in the parliament, Are we ready for that? It's all good for championing democracy, but what if the brotherhood comes to power? Are we ready for that?
Alpha Saiba proportional system disadvantages. How do you react?
देखिए ऑब्वियसली आपने जो कहा ये बिल्कुल सही बात है. प्रोपोर्शनल रिप्रेजेंटेशन के मसले जो होते हैं उसमें से सबसे बड़ा मसला ये होता है कि डज लीड टू अ मोर अनस्टेबल सिस्टम इन टर्म्स ऑफ कोalition गवर्नमेंट्स. बट द फर्स्ट पास्ट द पोस्ट सिस्टम ऑल्सो हैज़ अ नंबर ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स एंड व्हाट वी आर एंडिंग अप इज कि आप अगर पंजाब की ही अगर बात कर लें तो you have a party which ends up with a certain percentage of votes but उसको seats नहीं मिली. तो वो भी तो I mean there are people who have voted. You could have people that have perhaps given 30% of the vote to a particular party but because वो first past the post system में उन्होंने constituency level पे अच्छा perform नहीं किया तो आप उन लोगों का vote भी तो ज़ाया कर रहे हैं ना. So and perhaps I think in Pakistan, what we do need is the fact that political parties learn to work together. So what better way as to force them into a system where they have to learn how to collaborate and coordinate. So I think it's important. Secondly, I feel that proportional representation is also important because this constituency level system creates this added incentive कि वो national level का politician local government को चलने ही नहीं देता है फिर क्योंकि वो constituency से सब आए हुए हैं उन्होंने अपना एक patronage system बनाया हुआ है. They're not willing to let go of it. So if you at least have maybe half constituency level seats, half proportional representation, आप इसको भी address कर लेंगे. छोटी पार्टीज प्रोपोर्शनल रिप्रेजेंटेशन में जब उनको आप रिप्रेजेंटेशन देते हैं तो वो आप आई थिंक यू अ लॉट ऑफ द कंट्रीज देन हैव अ मिनिमम लाइक यू हैव टू गेट अ मिनिमम परसेंटेज ऑफ वोट्स बिफोर यू गेट एनी रिप्रेजेंटेशन इन पार्लियामेंट एंड दैट विल बी देयर. और हमारे तो मसला एज आई सेड कि ज़्यादा बड़ा मसला तो इस्टेब्लिशमेंट है और उसकी इंटरवेंशन है ना. कितनी कोई आपकी रेडिकल पार्टी होगी. रेडिकल पार्टीज भी भाई बहुत है सब उन्हीं की बनाई हुई हैं. मतलब कि कौन सी इतनी रेडिकल पार्टी है जिसके पीछे वो नहीं पाए जाते. तो मतलब कि लोगों का तो मसला नहीं है हमारी तो रेडिकलिज्म का भी मसला फर्क है.
Thank you. I'm very sorry, Ji. I'm being told I have to wrap up. We'll just finish with Dr. Saab, last comments, and then we'll finish. Thank you.
I want to add to what Arfa is saying, but in a different way. We have to understand the logic of first past the poll system. That over time, if you practice this system, and historically wherever it has been practiced, particularly two countries that I can refer to, USA and UK, the political forces that are fragmented are pushed by the logic of majority to form alliances. And that also changes the character of the political parties. The political parties are no longer driven by one single ideological spectrum, but rather a very wide spectrum. There are also a coalition of interests that falls into a particular ideological or program spectrum. So, what is lacking in Pakistan is something that we have to address to, and that is basically trust in the electoral process. If you restore trust of the people in the electoral process, and you will and if the elections are free and fair, not manipulated, you will see formation of 2, 3 at the most competitive electoral coalitions or electoral alliances, and eventually that results into two-party system. Right? When it comes to representation, this is a very complex and difficult issues. Who represents whom? So, if women have to be represented, should then only women be contesting elections for the women constituencies? The gender is a very important issue. Similarly, class is a very important issue. Ethnicity is very important issues. So I believe that the system, the template, the system that we have has historical roots. It is better to, in my view, to work within this system rather than change any radical change or transformation. That is not possible. That will end up into many other issues. So trust, fairness, freedom, and that is what is very important.
Thank you so much. I have to wrap up. Please join me in thanking our panelists, Dr. Rasul Bakhsh Rais, Mrs. Arfa Noor, and Mr. Sarup Ijaz. Thank you. If you have questions, I'm sure we can carry the conversation afterwards, but I think we have to vacate the stage. Thank you.